What would you say if I told you that Microsoft is having even more layoffs? Announced via Bloomberg, Microsoft Xbox division layoffs incoming. And this is me on X saying, wow, Microsoft laying off more people at Xbox. I, for one, am shocked that gutting studios, pushing the sinkhole of Game Pass, and blowing $69 billion on Activision Blizzard didn't magically make everything somehow sustainable. Who could have possibly seen this coming? And then I gave this source here. But before we go to the article, there's a couple takes I wanted to read first because, again, no one's really surprised. Madam Savvy said, companies who buy everything and run their shit at the word of thought leaders instead of passionate people are crushing the industry. Sarah Bond and her band of merry corpo women have toppled giants and made sure no one could compete. They bought up studios and ruined IP. Hope their yachts were worth it. If Microsoft were to lose its entire games division tomorrow, it would actually be a net benefit for the company overall, given the expenses. Most of the money comes from places you can't DEI, like cloud services and hardware/software, which is very, very true. I also would agree that if Microsoft were to lose their games division, not only would it be a net benefit for Microsoft overall, but I think many people would argue it would be a net benefit for gaming in general, because all Microsoft has been doing is buying up companies, injecting DEI into their company, and then ruining the games division of it. And I think there's a lot of people that have had enough of that. Grums on X said, major layoffs coming to Xbox. This would be the fourth round in 18 months. Game Pass isn't going well. The whole games as Netflix thing isn't working. And then we have Jay Viper, who said, gee, wonder what's wrong over at Xbox. Are they not virtue signaling hard enough? Maybe it's catering to the wrong audience or something. I can't quite put my finger on it. And he showcases the Xbox logo that has the trans pride flag on Pride Month logo, the halo pushing. I think this is the African American. I don't even know what they were doing there. And Skull and Bones, or what's this? A sea of I can't remember what the hell this game is. That's how little I care about it. Thieves, something. Sea of Thieves. Like, who cares? Who cares? You do this like this. I literally don't even care about your game anymore. I'm done with it. Like, bye. Out of state, out of mind. Yeah, Sea of Thieves. So here's the story coming from Bloomberg, and I assume, yep, Jason Schreier says Microsoft plans major job cuts at Xbox gaming division. The video game division's latest round of layoffs is expected next week. Microsoft Corp will conduct another round of major layoffs in its Xbox division next week as part of a company-wide reorg. And those of you that were here, by the way, what was it? Like a month ago, I told a story about how my brother told me about how one of his buddies was a manager at Microsoft, and they were actually a manager at a company that got purchased by Microsoft. So they got like pulled into Microsoft, and then their division was kind of like just there to just sit around. And the manager had no idea what to even do. They didn't have anyone to report to. They had no chain of command for anything. They had no instructions. They had no one they could even talk to. So they literally just sat there for multiple years doing nothing. Like, they'd go in and play solitaire on their computer every day or work from home and just get a paycheck. Like, Microsoft was buying up companies so fast and had no idea what to even do with them that they would buy them and then not have an actual action plan. And this happened across the board. So, yeah, now they're like, oh, wait, we probably shouldn't do that. We should probably like figure out who we bought and what they're actually doing. Managers with an Xbox are expecting substantial cuts across the entire group. According to people familiar with plans who asked not to be identified discussing non-public information, The company declined to comment. This will be the fourth big layoff at Xbox in the past 18 months, following 3 major cuts last year and the closure of several subsidiaries. So again, before I go on, tell me, is it a good idea for Microsoft to buy a game studio? Is it a good idea? I think initially it sounds great. The money's flowing. It's amazing. But ultimately, what they do is they squeeze the lemon and all the juice out of it and then throw it away behind them and move on and do it to the next one and the next one. It turns into a digital graveyard of game studios, and they don't give 2 shits about them or the people that work there. Xbox, which produces video game hardware and software, has been under pressure from Microsoft executives to boost profit margins since purchasing Activision Blizzard for $69 billion in a deal that closed in 2023, which again, I go back to that whole deal. I, for one, have no idea how that ever got approved by, was it the Securities and Exchange and the FTC and whatever, all the corporations and divisions and the governments that are supposed to oversee these monopolies. $69 billion for, hey, we promise not to make it exclusive for Call of Duty. But hey, we might change plans financially if we have to. Bloomberg News earlier reported that Microsoft plans to cut thousands of jobs next week, largely in sales. The tech giant often makes major organizational changes close to the end of its fiscal year, which concludes on June 30th. I got to be honest, this whole situation with Game Pass is ruining the game industry. It was a terrible idea from the get-go. I think they thought that this might be the future, like the Netflix of gaming, like, oh, this is where gamers will go, and we can stop them from getting the back catalog of games and treat it like the movie industry. And if people don't own any physical media moving forward, then we can charge whatever we want, and they have no power anymore. And bonus, we don't need to pay to ship to stores. We don't need to split the sales with the stores. We don't need to pay shipping. We don't need to do all these manufacturing costs and everything. Everything can be digital. We can slash costs across the board and just pay the studios. But if we buy the studios, we don't even have to pay the studios because there are studios, so we can just pay ourselves. That was their idea with it. I think the promise to the investors sounded great on the surface, but in reality, it doesn't play out that way. I think Game Pass is a great service for a family that doesn't care too much about gaming, but they want to have a game console. Like the Xbox Series S, which was an all-digital system and didn't have much storage at all, and you could basically just use that for Game Pass. I think that worked as an idea. That was great. The problem is they came out with the Xbox Series X, which was more powerful, a more competent system that could do far more. And then the games that they were making couldn't be optimized for the X because they had to work on the S as well, which basically rendered the X useless. So people were spending extra money on the X and not getting the additional output on it. So they had too many different directions they wanted to go. And they never actually stuck with one they wanted to pick because they're like, no, we're making money over here right now, so let's go that way. Oh, wait, that's dying, but we're making money over here right now, so let's go that way. And they couldn't figure out a direction. And now we're in a situation where Game Pass is clearly failing. If it wasn't, they would not be doing this. If Game Pass was blowing doors and they were making more money than God, they'd be paying bonuses, they'd be hiring more people, they'd be buying more studios. They're doing the exact opposite right now, which tells you that Game Pass is anything but successful. Jesse the Dank says, I agree. I feel shafted as an Xbox customer. And honestly, that's kind of the way I felt about Microsoft in general going into this generation of games. I am typically the kind of guy that buys every console, every generation from all the big companies, whether it's the Dreamcast from Sega or whatever Nintendo's putting out or whatever Sony's putting out or whatever Microsoft's putting out or whatever it is. I typically I'll buy, I literally bought a Switch 2 on launch day. I play games on PC. I have everything. I didn't buy an Xbox Series S or X, nor did I ever have any inclination to ever want to, because every single game that they made was available on PC. So I'm like, why the hell would I buy that hardware if it's just duplicating what I already have at my house? That's stupid. What a waste of money. And I feel like they really shot themselves in the foot by being like, oh, you can play Xbox anywhere. It's like, okay, great. Well, then why would I buy your stuff? I'll just play it on what I already have. How stupid can you be? What the hell? But I guess at the end of the day, what this kind of tells me is these are executives making way too much money. Sarah Bond needs to be fired yesterday. The direction that Xbox has been taking their company has been a complete and utter failure across the board. And anyone in an executive position making decisions should be ashamed of themselves for what they've done to the company, because Xbox used to mean something in the gaming world. It used to mean it would stand out. It was different. It would go against the grain. It was the gamer's brand. And then it turned into DEI nonsense up the ass as far as you could shove it. And it ruined everything. And they got no one to blame but themselves. But anyways, I'll leave that one there.